And of course, to most, we might see this as it's for the earth, it's for the planet, it's for the animals, the wildlife, the nature. But for me, it's about our kids, our future. Welcome back to my channel, guys. My name's Anthony. Inside of this video, I'm going to go through the beginner's guide to becoming a vegan. Also, I'm going to throw in advice and tips on how to make that seamless transition into adopting this vegan diet. But that's if you stay to the very end. Also, I'm going to include my vegan story, how I actually came about becoming a vegan, and of course my why, the reason why I actually made that jump. And it's not what you think. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into this. It's typically a traditional thing that my partner and her family does every single Lunar New Year. So they'll go 30 days vegetarian. In my family, we typically go maybe like one day or half day. And at first, when my partner asked me to do this challenge with her, I was kind of hesitant. In the past, she's done an entire 30 days. But for me, I've typically done maximum of one day, and that's like the limit for me. I found that I couldn't exactly function eating vegetarian for a full day. It would affect my energy levels going to the gym. It would affect my, concentration levels when I was studying. Throughout this challenge, I was introduced to a documentary, A Life on Our Planet. This was by David Attenborough, and I was expecting things like nature, animals, wildlife. Towards the end, this was a massive surprise for me. I'm sorry if you haven't watched it, but this was something that hit home, it hit deep. It was heartbreaking. To summarize, he was saying that I would experience in my lifetime a more unlivable Earth. And of course, this made me more aware of the impact that we're actually making from, our habits, our lifestyle, to create the kind of impact that is impacting the Earth right now in a negative way. And of course, he made a plea for us to take action, to, kind of build the future that we want to see, to create a more livable, healthy, lasting Earth. We might see this as it's for the Earth, it's for the planet, it's for the animals, the wildlife, the nature. But for me, it's about our kids, our future kids, and our future generations. From that point on, I knew that I needed to take action. I felt, deeply compelled, because I knew that if I didn't take action and I was ignorant towards the problems that I was introduced with, I would feel a sense of deep regret, because if I had not taken action and I was on my deathbed about to, leave this planet, my future kids would have to, bear the consequences of us not taking action towards, climate change. But just keep in mind that at this very point, I still had not made the jump. It was not that simple. It wasn't like a click of a finger and I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna change now. I'm gonna stop eating meat. It still felt like I had to reinvent my entire life, my schedule, my mindset. In hindsight, it was a very slow process. I didn't know if I could ever make that jump from eating meat to not eating meat ever again. So back to the challenge, the details were that we were super flexible with our diets. We would not buy meat, we wouldn't cook meat. And the only time we'd eat meat was when we'd go out to, eat with family and friends, when we'd go out to eat, just us two. And if you were to think about your entire life having consumed meat, for me, it's the past 28 years. To make that switch, it's most likely going to be a rocky transition due to the fact that it's not life and death. Like, you're not going to die if you eat another piece of meat. But here's what actually tipped me to go over the edge, to make that jump, to transition from being vegetarian to becoming vegan. After a couple more documentaries like Seaspiracy, Cowspiracy, Game Changers, and about 3 weeks into this 30-day challenge, I was like to myself and my partner, imagine going vegan, cutting out dairy, because we had already gone about halfway there, cutting out meat at home. And at first, because I saw that this was doable, because we were already, halfway there, I was intrigued and I was up for the challenge. But of course, keeping in mind the biggest challenge right now, then and there, was going from meat to no meat. Like, could I replace meat protein with plant-based protein? How would I feel? Would I survive? Would I get the same amount of nutrients? Would I get enough nutrients? And of course, because you're watching this right now, this is exactly what you're wondering. And right now I'm about 4 months into becoming vegan, and of course I'm going to share with you my tips, my tricks, my secrets, and everything that you need to know in order to transition seamlessly into becoming a vegan yourself. So to start this off, my favorite type of protein is tofu. You could also use lentils and you can use chickpeas. Keeping this simple, let's call this step number 1. Step number 2 is select one of those and find a recipe that you can create and just substitute this for one meal every single week. Step number 3, keeping this simple AF. I always recommend every time someone asks me about nutrition or how to stay lean, how to eat to build more muscle, I would recommend going thirds. So 1/3 carbs, 1/3 vegetables, 1/3 protein. So now you have 2 more decisions to make. What do you want for your carbs? What do you want for your vegetables? And so that's exactly how I would go about, substituting meat for a plant-based protein. And of course that's easier said than done, but here's my bonus tips for making a seamless transition. Number 1, make small substitutes. What do I mean by that? You could start off by just replacing your dairy milk with soy milk, almond milk, oat milk, and of course my favorite of those, I have to add this in, is oat milk. You could first try this by alternating every single time you buy milk. Dairy to non-dairy, back to dairy to non-dairy, until you're actually ready to fully transition into non-dairy milk. And of course with your meals, you could try replacing it with one meal every single week where you have a plant-based protein instead of meat. And this leads me to tip number 2, trying new recipes. If you're lazy like me, of course you want to make quick recipes. Perhaps it's a 1-pot recipe, maybe it's a 5 to 10 minute recipe. And to go even further than that, to help you out, I highly recommend tofu scramble. Basically, you get tofu and you just break it up into the pan straight from the packet. And you could start cooking it up. You could even just add salt to it and make it taste good. It's super simple and it's perfect for during the weekdays. This is what I tend to do. I just, spend 5 minutes cooking that protein. I could just, put rice into the rice cooker and perhaps steam veggies on top. And of course, when you're plating up or you're preparing your food for the next day, you'll just use the thirds rule where you go carbs, protein, and vegetables. I feel like I've given you a ton of tips, and I don't know what number we're up to, but let's call this tip number 3. This is how I search for recipes, how I find recipes that I use and I test. For example, I would search vegan tofu recipes, or vegan curry lentil recipes, or vegan chickpea recipes. And I would just look for the ones that take less time, the ones with less ingredients, or more of the basic ingredients that I already have. Last but not least, tip number 4. If you want to speed things up, if you want to find an easy way to just cook and leave, aka throw everything into a pot, press start, and let it cook, I recommend the Instant Pot. This is an amazing piece of technology and it speeds up cooking time by around 60%. This includes cooking pasta, lentil soup, lentil curries, you've got your vegan ramens in 10 minutes or less. And those are my tips for you to make a seamless transition into becoming vegan. But most importantly, your why. I find that if your reason or your why is purely to, get lean, or purely for health, purely to change your diet, it's not gonna last, it's not gonna stick. And my why of fearing regret, of doing this for our future kids. These are the 2 drivers that have made me compelled to taking action, making that change, going from meat eating to veganism. That is it, my beautiful peeps. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any ideas for my next video, make sure you comment them down below. Also, if you've reached this part of the video, make sure you like this video to make sure the right person sees this video. My name's Anthony, thank you again, and I hope to see you in the next video.